right, ladies, this is our time to come together, our time to discuss the things that are, girly. I love that. I love being a girl. Don't you love being a girl? Oh, I love it. I do. I love everything about it. I mean, it's amazing that God has purposely created us to be exactly who we are. No one else, not to look like anybody else, not to talk like anybody else or dress like anyone else, just you. He's created you. And He does want that relationship with you. And it is time at this point in the weekend to really start making decisions. I only have a few minutes here with you to discuss the things that I would love to discuss, and if I could, I would spend as long as I could. But they won't let me. They'll kick me off. But so this is the weekend. This is the time. I want you to know right now, I love you. I don't say that lightly. It's not to make you feel good. I do though. And when I say I love you, I use a definition of love from St. Thomas Aquinas. I think a lot of us sometimes, if I had to ask you, and if you have your pens and papers out, if you have them with you, pull them out, because there could be something that you might want to write down. Not saying that I have something, novel to share, but the Holy Spirit might just grab a word or grab something and it just strikes your heart. Write it down. Because later on in adoration, you might be able to come back to that moment of like, what is God speaking to you? How is He using a certain word or a phrase or a thought to help you deepen your relationship with Him? And one of the big words that I always like to tell people about and ask them, what is your definition for? Because the terms, how we define our terms in life is it's how we live. How you define certain terms in your life will navigate your life in a certain way. It's interesting how it works, but it's true. If you define happiness in a certain way, success in a certain way, you're going to go after that and you're going to navigate your life in that direction. If it's centered on the world, on money, on power, on status, you're definitely going to choose certain things, make certain decisions to make sure that you attain that type of happiness. But if your happiness is centered on Jesus Christ, if it's centered on God, if you think about the next life and that's the one that's eternal, that's the one that goes on forever, how is your definition of happiness now? And one of the biggest ones within that happiness is the word love. How do you define love? Do you have a definition for it? Love is, and then fill in the blank. What is it? In your head, think about that. Do you have one? Unfortunately, today, most people don't. They don't have a definition for love. And then what we do is we accept what the world tells us love is, right? Love is always being in a relationship. Love is having someone, chase after you. Love is having sex with your boyfriend. Love is engaging in this and doing that. Love is having best friends where you can sit and talk about other people and how terrible they are, but you two are close and you would never do it. That's love, right? We know that's not. But that's what the world tells us in many different forms and different ways. And we sometimes just go along with it. Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, that's the definitely consensus in the world, so, the world must be right. And we forget to really define that word for us. And for women, it's really important because we've got these amazing feminine hearts that are like just bursting to love everything on the planet, right? Are you one of those people? I'm one of those people. I want to love every person in the world. If there are other worlds, I want to go there and love those people. I don't care. I just, I love it, I'm good at it. I love loving people. I just want to give everybody a big hug and be like, I love you. That is all. That's it. I got nothing else. But I love you, And so I knew this about me. I knew this was part of my personality. A personality that God formed with me, that God gave me. And so I kind of thought about it. Okay, God, I really have a desire to love people. I have a desire to be truthful with people. I have a desire to talk about God in a very genuine and sincere way. I want to be honest about it. I don't want it to sound like some Hallmark card just to make you feel better, but I want to give you the truth. I want to let you know what's really going on, and that the dreams that we have and sometimes the things that we think are going to make us happy, they don't. You know, Sean gave such a great testimony today. And I mean, I was sitting there nodding my head the whole time. I'm with you. I knew what he was talking about. And sometimes we lead those lives because we don't define certain terms in our life appropriately. When I a few minutes ago said, I love you, and I'm up here for that one of those reasons. I definitely wouldn't be here, wouldn't have agreed to do the conference, wouldn't agree to do this work or anything like that if I didn't truly love. And that's only because, you know, I have formed now a better definition of that word. And so if you don't have a definition of love, borrow this definition. And I would encourage you just to keep it, but if you need to adapt it, fine. St. Thomas Aquinas, this is his definition. So you can argue with him if you don't like it. I mean, he's dead, but I mean, good luck. But anyway, so he's awesome. So, I mean, if you want to argue with Aquinas, be my guest. But he has love as desiring the greatest good for the beloved. That love is desiring the greatest good for the beloved. And you think about that. Think about somebody right now in your life. Who do you love? Who do you love? Who loves you? Okay, now you have those people in your mind, right? Do they desire your greatest good? Your greatest good is not sin. It's not a path or a journey away from God. The greatest good in life, what is the greatest good that you could wish that you could help someone attain? The greatest good is truly God. And the greatest good beyond that is God forever. God eternal. That means, in other words, heaven. Being with Him forever. Being in His glory and His love and His compassion and His just perfectness. Being in that presence forever and being fully and completely happy every second of your eternity. That's the greatest good. So when we say we love someone and whatever it is, and people say that to us, it's good to question that. I mean, hopefully, of course, your parents love you with this definition. They should. But when it comes to our relationships with people, are we really wanting the best for them? Do we wish heaven for them? Do we really love them in that way? And do they really love us in that way? You know, and those are tough questions to ask. I know they were tough questions for me to ask when I finally kind of pulled the trigger. You know, because Sean was right when he was talking about before. This is a game time decision. And you're at that point in the weekend now where you're at the game time decision. You're at that moment now. Okay, do you believe or do you not believe? Are you going to buy in to God, or are you going to just keep on in the world? It is. And only you can make that choice. I mean, we can be up here and try to encourage you and do whatever we can and give you, the gospel and whatnot. But that decision is you. And that relationship is between you and God. So what is it going to be at this point, The things that can't, if you're thinking, you know what, yeah, it's game time decision, and Leah, I do want this. I don't know how to get there, though. Let me just give you some quick guidelines, and you can discuss it more in your small groups. But there are virtues that can help with this, that greatly help. Does anybody know of the virtues? There's 7. Yeah, they're great. There's a couple hands. Very good. All right. There's 7 virtues. And I'm going to explain 4 of them to you. The other 3 I'm not going to go into. You can talk about that more in your small groups. Find a priest, find a nun. They can give you a little catechism. But the 3 that I'm not going to mention are faith, hope, and love. Those are the theological virtues. There's cardinal virtues. There's 4 of those. And then there's 3 theological virtues. The theological virtues depend upon the cardinal virtues. The cardinal virtues, they're like the hinge. And in fact, that is exactly what the word cardinal, card, in Latin means. Everything hinges upon these four. And these four, the way that you can remember it is by this little acronym, okay? People jump for truth. People jump for truth. I know, it's weird, but we're going to work with it, okay? People jump for truth, okay? So so prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance. Okay, so prudence, what is that? When someone says, well, that's not very prudent to make that decision, right? They mean wise, prudence, wisdom. Think about that. Justice, that's pretty clear, right? Doing what's good due to God, and neighbor, that's justice. Being just, fair. Fortitude, I love this one. Fortitude is courage. Courage to stand up for what you believe in. Have the courage to act upon what you believe in. Yeah, it's amazing, courage. We always love those stories when people, when they have to make the game time decision and they make the right one. They had that courage, that fortitude to kind of go with it. The last one is temperance. Temperance also is known as moderation or self-control. And in that beautiful virtue of temperance, underneath that is the sub-virtue of chastity. Chastity. The virtue by which we know our worth, we act according to that worth, and do not want to harm anybody else's dignity or our own. That's beautiful. That's amazing. It's freeing. But that's what that's kind of underneath. And so I have this story that I wanted to share with you, and I love this story. This story is told usually in one way, and I'm going to tell it in another way today. I'm going to tell you the story about this man, and I was going to tell you the story about someone who exuded a lot of virtue. And I was going to give you some great examples of those four cardinal virtues that I just mentioned. And we'll definitely get there. But I also want to mention to you the story of vice. Of this man who really did not do anything according to the four cardinal virtues. There was no justice. There was no fortitude. There was no prudence. There definitely was not any temperance. And you can kind of see what these look like. And then you can see what happens and what he decides to do. So his name is Alessandro. Alessandro lived in Italy. And he was there and he was hanging out. And he had this neighbor. And she was pretty cute, right? And he was kind of, let me just give you some background on him. He was kind of into some bad stuff, okay? He kind of read some things that were impure. He was kind of influenced by the media and kind of really engaging in pleasure only and those types of things. I think you kind of get where I'm going with it. It doesn't sound too far off from things going on here. And this is like way back when, okay? Early 1900s. I'm sorry, early 20th century. So we have this guy. He's got this neighbor. She's really cute. And he's like, you know what? He sees her. And he wants her. So he sees her as a possession, and he wants her. And he approaches her. Hey, come on, come here. Let's over here. And he's trying to get her to do things. And he keeps talking to her and he says these impure things and these things that really embarrass her. And she's like, stop. Don't, no. She's very faithful. She's Catholic. She loves God. She says, no. I'm not going to do that. Get away. And then he leaves her alone. The next day. And it keeps happening. And she finally is just like, no, Alessandro, no. I'm not doing this. God does not want this. And that just fuels his anger. He's just so into his sin that just the thought of any of that just makes him even angrier. So the next day he has this moment and he decides, you know what? I'm going to show her. I'm going to show her that I'm in control. And he goes up to her and he finds her where there's no one around. And he goes, because they're neighbors, and he goes and he creeps into her house and he takes her and he tries to force himself upon her. And he was like, you know what? I'm gonna do what I now want to do. I've been trying to do this with you forever. You keep, denying me. You deny me. I'm taking it. I'm taking what I want from you. And he's trying to put himself on her, and she keeps screaming, no, God does not want it. God does not want it. Stop it, Alessandro. Don't do this. She was defending her purity. Defending it. And can you imagine that? I think about today. I think about my own past, of how I didn't even defend my purity. I didn't see it as this prize, as this beautiful treasure. And instead, I just gave it up. Here, take it. Here, take it. Here, take it. How many times do we do that? And here is this girl who's defending it to the death. He gets so mad, he's able to find something, and he takes this knife and he stabs her in the chest. Stabs her again. 14 times. 14 times Maria Goretti was stabbed. 14 times in the chest. Boom, boom, boom. He leaves her for dead. He runs off. Maria's family gathers around. They take her to the hospital. She's there at the hospital. She lives for another, I believe, 20 hours. While she's in the hospital, she speaks to her mother. And she, after a few hours, talked to her and she said, I forgive him. She's on her deathbed. And she actually forgives him, and she means it. Not just, well, this is the nice thing to do. She's in pain, terribly in pain, bleeding out internally, and she forgives him. Right after she forgave him and told her mother that she forgave him, that is what Jesus would want, she closes her eyes and she dies. That's Saint Maria Goretti. Well, people, a lot of times, they speak of this story, and she has such virtue. She showed the virtue. Alessandro, he showed the vice. He showed what happens when you don't practice those virtues, when you throw them away, when you give into the world and everything it offers. And in taking it to like the nth degree, of course. But really doing that. What's so interesting, of course, I love St. Maria Goretti. I had the honor of actually going to Italy a few years ago, and I went to her home. I got to go to her home. I don't know if any of you have had the chance to do it. It's amazing. I saw the place where she was stabbed right inside of her home, right by the door. They have like this little grail around it. It's beautiful. And you see everything in her dedication there of her defending virtue, defending her purity. And she did it to the end. She saw that as such a beautiful gift from God, and she didn't want it taken away at all. I mean, it would have been easier to give in. It would have been easier to give in, and she wouldn't have been at fault, of course. It would have been easy to give in, and maybe she would have lived. But she saw the power in that virtue. She saw the beauty and the dignity of her purity, of her virginity, and she held on to that with such strength. She had such courage. She was wise to even know this. She had even self-control, even not to give in. And Alessandro didn't. What's interesting, what a lot of people don't know about the story is about Alessandro. Alessandro was sentenced to jail for 30 years. He was a minor, so he would have been sentenced to jail for life if he was over 18. And keep in mind, Maria, she was 11 years old, just a few months from being 12. So Alessandro is going to jail. He goes to jail for 30 years. And when he goes to jail, he is angry. He is mad. He hasn't repented, nothing like that. And very soon after he's sentenced, a priest comes to him and says, do you want to confess? How can I help you? And he is so full of sin, so angry that he ends up howling at the priest, like crazy exorcist weird stuff, right, going on, like crazy stuff. He's like freaking out the priest, kicking and screaming and telling him to get away. So the priest leaves, and he spent the next 6 years in this type of darkness, this type of like almost on the brink of despair. And it was at the end of that 6 years when he's like literally at that brink of despair, meaning he was about ready to lose all hope for life, when sin and the devil was just coming down in on him. And he is in his jail cell, and he sees this vision of this beautiful young woman, this beautiful little girl. It was Maria Goretti. He has a vision of Maria Goretti, and he sees her with white lilies surrounding her. White lilies are the sign for purity. And he sees her, and he's like, and all he does, he just sees her. The vision of seeing her allowed him to like really change and convert. And he saw that she had forgiven him. She'd forgiven him on her deathbed. He converts. He changes, he repents from everything from his ways. The rest of his jail time is served out. When he is released from jail, he goes and he becomes the gardener at a monastery. And he's gardening for the other monks and everything, and he's doing all their gardening and really just kind of just taking his repentance to, the next level. Really being sorry for his sins and wanting to give his life to God as well, even though he was a murderer. A serious murderer. And so he's there and he's doing all of this, and there is this, there's this thing, and I'm not sure if we have it up, but there was this, I don't know if we can pull it up. If not, I can read it. This is what he wrote as to be read at his funeral when he died. And this is his message to all of us. He gave this, and he wanted this message to be sent out to everyone that would possibly read it and know about the beauty of Maria Goretti. And he wanted this to be known. He says, I'm nearly 80 years old. I'm about to depart. Looking back at my past, I can see that in my early youth, I chose a bad path which led me to ruin myself. My behavior was influenced by print, mass media, and bad examples, which are followed by the majority of young people without even thinking. And I did the same. I was not worried. There were a lot of generous and devoted people who surrounded me, but I paid no attention to them because a violent force blinded me and pushed me toward a wrong way of life. When I was 20 years old, I committed a crime of passion. Now that memory represents something horrible for me. Maria Goretti, now a saint, was my good angel, sent to me through providence to guide and save me. I still have impressed upon my heart, and this is one of my favorite parts, I still have impressed upon my heart her words of rebuke and pardon. Her words of rebuke saying, no, Alessandro, no, don't do it, God doesn't want it. And then, I forgive you. She prayed for me. She interceded for her murderer. 30 years of prison followed. If I had been of age, I would have spent all my life in prison. I accepted to be condemned because it was my own fault. Little Maria was really my light, my protectress. With her help, I behaved well during the 27 years of prison and tried to live honestly when I was again accepted among the members of society. The brothers of St. Francis, Capuchins from Marseille, welcomed me with angelic charity into their monastery as a brother, not as a servant. I've been living with their community for 24 years, and now I am serenely waiting to witness the vision of God, to hug my loved ones again, and to be next to my guardian angel and her dear mother, Assunta. I hope this letter that I wrote can teach others the happy lesson of avoiding evil, vice, and of always following the right path like little children. I feel that religion with its precepts is not something we can live without, but rather it is the real comfort, the real strength in life, and the only safe way in every circumstance, even the most painful ones of life. Signed, Alessandra. I think that is so powerful to see. When you look at what he wrote, what he had to say, Alessandro was the greatest example, not maybe the greatest, but a great example of vice. He didn't exude any of those virtues. But look what he did. When he got out of prison and was working at the monastery, he went at some point to Maria's mother, Assunta, and he asked for her forgiveness, and she gave it to him. She forgave him And on June 24th, 1950, Maria Goretti was canonized as a saint, and in the audience was the mom, Assunta, and Alessandro. The murderer and the mother of the saint were in the audience as she was beatified. And that's amazing. You know, and Maria lived such a beautiful life, a short life, but she showed us virtue. And I think for us women, it's a good example for us to remember. Because here's the thing, we teach people how to treat us. We teach them how to treat us. So all the beautiful things that make us a woman, all the beautiful things that make us a child of God, when we live a life of virtue, we teach others to treat us in a virtuous way as well. I see this all the time. Girls always tell me, I don't want to be used. Well, of course you don't. Who wants to be used, right? No one wants to be used as a thing. No one wants to, to be given a false love. But then sometimes we dress or we act in a way that teaches others kind of like, hey, I'm dressing like this. I'm dressing really immodestly, really provocatively. You are teaching them how to treat you. So living that life of virtue is important, is knowing what that is. The wisdom to know right from wrong. To have the self-control to say, okay, that would give me some pleasure for a few minutes, but let's be honest, there's more important things in life. And what I really want is something greater than just that. Having some self-control. Having the courage to take on our faith, to do something about it. Like I said before, this weekend, at this point now, you're at game time decision. It's coming up. Tonight we're going to have the big adoration, yeah? If you've been here before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it. It's my favorite thing. And you have Jesus just come walking on up here. It is gorgeous. And you have that chance to really do something. I think in my past, in my life experiences, and what I've kind of learned is that us women, we have a lot of relationships that we're in. No? Yeah. We have a lot of relationships that we're in. We're in a lot of relationships. We multitask relationships all the time. And not just with people, but with things too. With behaviors. With sin. I remember when I came back from leaving New York, I had this moment of conversion, right? And I came back, and I remember thinking to myself about all these things. And for me, one of my biggest sins, one of the things that kept repeating itself, that kept coming back, even though I kept saying, okay, no, I'm not going to do that again, was this sin of lust, vanity, all these things like that, And I was just sick and tired of it. And I was I talked to myself a lot, inside my head and then out loud too. It's kind of weird. But I'm one of those people. I'm a verbal processor, so I'm always out there talking. And I remember just saying to myself, kind of like talking to sin in a way, I'm like, dude, you lied to me. The sin of lust. You lied to me. You told me it was going to be better with you in the life. You told me that he was going to love me. You told me he wouldn't leave if I did that. You convinced me. You got my friends to believe you. You're in the magazines I read. You're in the movies I watch. I thought that it was okay. It's not that big of a deal, right? It's not a big deal. But you lied. You lied to me. It's terrible. And I am paying the price. The sin doesn't care. The sin's not paying the price. I am. I have to deal with the consequence. And I remember just telling myself, you know what? I've had a relationship with you way too long. And I'm breaking up. It's over. We need a massive, big, huge Hollywood breakup. Like the ones that are in the movies where you're like, yeah, you go, girl, you go. Yeah, that thing, That's what we need. We need that big breakup where we decide that we have these things. So now, I know the ushers, I believe that they passed out these chastity cards. Something like that, right? So you have those. This card does not have superpowers. You cannot sign it and think, I am free. I will never have a sexual thought ever again in my mind. I will be free, I'll be chaste, no matter what I do, how close I get, snuggling with my boyfriend horizontally on the couch, no problem, because I got the card. I can take it with me. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah. Johnny, do you want to come over and take a nap? We'll just watch a movie and take a nap. It's no big, because I have the card. I'm totally cool. Did you bring your card? Okay, we have the card. Let's go. No, this does not work like that. But it is an awesome thing to have. And it is an awesome thing that can help with your commitment to this. Chaste living is more just about, it has so little to do with just saying no to sex. That is so not the point. It's saying yes to genuine, real, sincere love. It's saying, yeah, I'm worth it. I'm worth waiting for. And that's not a Hallmark card. This is just the truth. I am. I'm amazing. And I'm worth waiting for. When I came back, I made that commitment. I didn't have a card. I wish I did. It'd be cool. Because I hear all the time about like people signing their cards. They practice, the chaste life. They work through it. They get it. They do it. And then on their wedding day, they're like, "Here, sweetie, here's my card. I signed it. I dated it. July 28th, 2012. This is for you." And that sounds amazing. I didn't do that, but it sounds amazing, And it's great to have. So it's great to have that on there, and you can do it, and you can really believe in that. But I'll tell you something, it's hard work. And not just, I'm talking, of course, just about chastity and unchaste living, but there's so many other vices that we all have. But for me, I think this is a really big one, because the world really tells us what love is, and they have it all wrong. Because if they're right, then how come we're the ones dealing with the pain? How come we're the ones crying? How come we're the ones saying, and when can I get over this? When am I going to feel better? When does all this stuff happen? That doesn't make any sense. I remember when I was home and I was like trying to like rethink my life and like, what the heck just happened? How did I spend a decade away from God? How did I spend years away from confession? What was I thinking? I thought about beyond that day. I thought about, okay, Leah, who do you want to be in the world? Like, what talents do you have? What is God asking me to do? And you had to like kind of project out. Like, who do you want to be? What type of woman do you want to be? I hope that she's courageous. I hope that she's wise, has some wisdom, that she has self-control. I hope that she's just, faith, hope, love. That's the type of woman I think you want to be. And it's available, and we have to do that. I remember thinking, okay, how am I going to get there? What should I do? And the easiest answer to this thing is just run to the sacraments. Prayer, Mass, confession. And I started doing that more and more and more, kind of building up the courage. And I kept a journal and just journaling about my journey. What's going on? Thinking, will anybody love me if I don't do this or that? And it was amazing. I remember my first date with my husband 5 years ago. My first date with him, we didn't date that whole time, don't worry. But my first date with him, I asked him this question. Because the date wasn't going so well, all right? It wasn't going so hot. He just annoyed me to death. And I annoyed him to death. It's totally fair. It's totally fair. There's a time for everything. It wasn't our time at that moment. But God had us meet. He had us meet. And then he introduced us, And, he's acting all cool, whatever he does, the cool thing the guys do. And I finally just said, what do you want? He just looks at me like, huh? I go, what do you want? Because I'm sick of this. Stop playing your little boy game. What do you want? And he just looked at me like, you did not just speak to me like that, right? And he turns and looks, and then I remember him looking in his eyes, and he crossed his arms, and he goes, Leah, I want to be fully known. I want one person in this world to fully know me and still love me. I was like, okay. Okay, I'm so sorry. All right, so kind of like you now, so, what do you say to that? I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, my God, you put your, foot and mouth syndrome. So, I'm sitting thinking, okay, and then, the years go by, and things didn't work out. And I remember when he proposed to me, we're at the Grand Canyon. And we were just there for I know, it's so cool. And we were there, we were driving through, we got there, and my dad had told us as we were making this cross-country drive, he says, you got to see the Grand Canyon at sunrise. My daddy said that. So we're like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So we decided to do that at sunrise. So we were driving all night, we get there exhausted or whatever. I mean, I am, no makeup, hair's in a bun, I'm wearing my sweats, and, all sorts of fun stuff, hat on. It was, in the wintertime, snows everywhere in the Grand Canyon, and it's just beautiful. And we get out there, and we're waiting for the sun to come up, and I'm freezing. It's 20 degrees, which is, I guess, really warm here, but whatever, so it's cold. And so I'm there, and I'm getting ready, and then the sun, comes up, and beams down into the canyon, right? It's just gorgeous, and you see all the colors of the canyon just, totally light up. It's 20 degrees out, it's cold, it's a Grand Canyon, but you see the orange and the purple and the red, and it's just amazing, It's wow, God did this with water. Water. Like this water. Dude, this made a hole in the planet. That's amazing. Hole in the planet, water. If God can make a hole in the planet with water, what can he do with you with a little piece of bread that becomes him? Oh, I don't know. It's amazing. Good stuff. That's all I know. It'll be good stuff. Be better than a Grand Canyon. So we're sitting there, just being amazed at the Grand Canyon, amazed at the beauty, and it's so gorgeous. And I finally just said, he says, okay, are you ready to go? I said, yeah, let's go. And I get up, and I'm taking some pictures of the Grand Canyon because it's so pretty in the sunrise. So I'm watching the sun come up, and I'm kind of getting that view. And as I turn around, I see my husband kneeling down on one knee on the cliff of the Grand Canyon with this shiny little ring. And I'm like, oh my gosh. This is not happening. It's so happening. It's not happening. Oh my gosh, it's happening. I'm totally freaking out. I'm totally freaking out. I can still freak out right now thinking about it. Oh, I'm so scared. Because I thought he was going to fall over into the canyon, with the ring. I'm like, ah! Totally more concerned about him, but still, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, and he proposes to me, and he asks to marry me. And the reason why I'm sharing this story is because of this one point, because he said something to me that really just meant something so much to me. And I just want to remind you that this is possible. But after he proposed to me, he just said, Leah, I love you. I forgive you of your past. I love you today. And I am going to do everything in my life to make you a saint. I just thought, I know, oh, that's awesome. I just love him. I do. That's why I married him. It's amazing. But that is awesome. I understand about the love that God has for us. That I am so blessed. I have this man in my life. I have this husband who wants me to be virtuous. He wants me to be wise, to be courageous, to be just, to have some self-control over my passions. He wants that of me. He desires that for me. That is a beautiful example of love. He's not a perfect man, I'm not a perfect woman, and we sin and we struggle. But I'll tell you something, I'm happy that I got someone on my side that's trying to get me to heaven. So I ask you, it is your job to get other people to heaven. This is not a singles only dance. This is not a singles only race. It's a relay. You are passing the baton over and over and over and over to other people. You're giving them encouragement. You're giving them strength. Girls, ladies, women, we are awesome. We are so amazing. We are amazing because God has created us. Because God loves us. And we have a special gift to give to this world. We have a special, beautiful, feminine heart that we can love others with purity. We can teach people how to treat us. You want to be treated like a lady? Act like a lady. Dress like a lady. It's about time that we started to do these things and stop accepting what the world wants from us. They want us to look like streetwalkers, to act like streetwalkers, and then to act like we are Mary Poppins. Are you serious? There is nothing glamorous or wonderful or ladylike about that. That is not what we're called to. We are called for something more. So whatever it is you have in your life, whatever sin, whatever vice, whatever bad habit that you have, it's time to break up with it now. It's time to break up with it, to write it down. Yeah, you should clap because I know that you don't want to do it. I know that whatever sin it is, you hate it. And I want you to hate it. I want you to conjure up this anger for the sin, not for you, for the sin, and I want you to despise it. And I want you to break up with it. And I want you to take it to Christ in adoration tonight. I want you to ask for healing. I want you to take it to the sacrament of reconciliation. If you already went, but you left something out, go back and make it count. This is a game time decision. It's now. God's asking you, are you in or are you out? It's that easy. Are you in or are you out? If you love me, you'll follow my commandments. Plain and simple. His words, not mine. If you love me, you'll follow my commandments. That's amazing, you know? I think that right now we'll end with just a few minutes of just reflection. And I want you during this time, if you can, and you don't do it with your neighbor, of course, but write down on that little piece of paper. Write down what you need to break up with. Write in code if you need to, if you're afraid someone's looking at you. You know, do acronyms or something. I don't know. You know what you're talking about because you know what it is. And free yourself from that. Free yourself from that sin, from that darkness. And use Alessandro as a beautiful example of someone who embraced vice, repented, and lived a beautiful life. He lived a beautiful life. I can imagine when he died in 1970. I can imagine that Maria was there greeting him, smiling at him, giving him a huge hug. Christ loves you. He forgives you. He has redeemed you.